4:40 a.m., October 9th, 2025. It was still dark over Ukraine when the sound of engines broke the silence at a secret test site near Lviv. The clock struck 4:40 a.m. as a sleek, compact drone lifted off into the cold morning air. At first glance, it looked like a simple prototype, just another experimental UAV being tested in wartime. But within minutes, it vanished from radar screens, only to reappear over 700 kilometers away, flying stealthily above the Black Sea. What followed would send ripples through the defense circles of Moscow and absolute shockwaves across Beijing. Ukraine had just pulled off one of the most astonishing technological feats of modern warfare. President Volodymyr Zelensky's latest drone project wasn't merely a success, it was a statement to the entire world. Ukraine could not only survive under war, but also lead it into the next era of military innovation. The Chinese military elite, watching from afar, couldn't believe what they were seeing. The hook and the shock. When Chinese analysts at the People's Liberation Army's Strategic Support Force first reviewed the early satellite data, they assumed it was fake. Reports indicated that Ukraine's new drone, codenamed Sokil X9 or Falcon X9, had achieved something previously thought impossible for a war-torn nation under siege: a fully autonomous, long-range flight lasting over 1,500 kilometers across multiple simulated enemy zones without human control. The drone not only avoided radar, but also changed its route mid-air in response to simulated threats. It was guided entirely by artificial intelligence, learning and adapting in real time. This was the kind of capability that China and Russia had spent billions trying to perfect, yet Ukraine, with its limited resources, had done it first. For Beijing, this wasn't just surprising, it was humiliating. Only weeks earlier, Chinese state media had mocked Ukraine's drone program as heavily dependent on Western algorithms and years behind China's AI capabilities. But after this test, those same outlets went silent. Inside the Sokil X9. According to Ukrainian defense sources, the Sokil X9 is no ordinary drone. It's part of Zelensky's invisible sky doctrine, a three-stage plan to redefine unmanned warfare. The first stage is autonomy, building drones that can think for themselves. The second is saturation, deploying hundreds of such drones simultaneously to overwhelm any defense network. And the third is deception, creating drones capable of mimicking other radar signatures, confusing even the most advanced detection systems. The Sokil X9 represents all three. Its AI system doesn't just follow preloaded instructions, it learns from its surroundings. During its test, it flew through simulated Russian S-400 and Chinese HQ-9 radar networks, identifying signal frequencies and automatically adjusting its flight pattern to evade detection. It even simulated a strike mission, targeting dummy coordinates with a precision error of less than 3 meters. According to sources inside Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, this drone could potentially hit any Russian military site within a 1,500-kilometer radius, including air bases deep inside Crimea. When Zelensky was briefed on the results, he reportedly smiled and said, "Let them keep guessing how we did it." Beijing's disbelief. Hours after the test, alarms went off inside China's Defense Command network. Leaked communications from within the People's Liberation Army's aerospace department revealed that analysts initially dismissed the Ukrainian success as Western manipulation. They claimed NATO must have fed Ukraine with advanced AI flight control code. But privately, Chinese engineers were rattled. An internal memo from China's National Defense University, later leaked to Western media, stated bluntly, "If Ukraine developed this technology independently, it changes the balance of power in drone warfare across Eurasia. This will require immediate review of our own air defense protocols." This was more than just embarrassment. It was a wake-up call. Beijing's entire drone strategy, centered on mass production and centralized AI command, suddenly looked outdated. Ukraine had proven that small, decentralized innovation could beat giant bureaucratic systems. How Ukraine fooled China. The most brilliant part of Ukraine's success wasn't just the technology. It was the deception. Over the past year, Ukraine had been running a series of public drone tests, showing off small, low-end models that seemed unimpressive. Chinese and Russian observers cataloged every detail and concluded that Ukraine's R&D was stagnant. But behind the scenes, Kyiv had been working on something entirely different. Through a network of civilian tech startups, posing as agricultural and delivery drone companies, Ukrainian engineers secretly tested advanced AI navigation and flight algorithms. Many of these startups were backed by the Ministry of Digital Transformation, which disguised the projects as commercial initiatives. While China's intelligence services tracked Ukraine's military supply chains, they completely missed this civilian sector innovation network. The Sokil X9 wasn't built in a military lab. It was built in a hybrid environment, where civilian coders, gamers, and roboticists collaborated under the radar. By the time Beijing realized these startups were part of a military cover operation, the invisible sky doctrine was already complete. Zelensky's strategic genius. Zelensky's personal involvement in the project was crucial. Sources close to his administration revealed that he ordered maximum secrecy around drone development, after learning that China and Russia were analyzing wreckage from downed Ukrainian UAVs. To mislead them, Ukraine staged intentional leaks, older, weaker models that would appear to confirm enemy assumptions. Meanwhile, real testing continued deep underground. The president even diverted some funds from international aid packages into private innovation hubs, where engineers could work free from bureaucracy. As one insider put it, he told us, "Don't build a copy of anyone's drone. Build something no one expects." That strategy worked perfectly. Western role and support. Though Ukraine claims the Sokil X9 was developed independently, Western assistance can't be ignored. British and American defense tech contractors are believed to have provided simulation software and AI guidance through private channels. Satellite imaging firms in the UK and France also helped train the Sokil's terrain recognition system. However, the physical drone, the airframe, motor, sensors, and circuitry, was assembled in Ukraine. Components were sourced from Europe and Turkey, but the integration was Ukrainian through and through. This hybrid model of global cooperation, local execution, allowed Ukraine to innovate faster than its rivals. While China's defense giants drown in red tape, Ukraine's small, flexible teams moved quickly, learning from every battlefield failure. China's strategic panic. The days following the test were chaotic for Beijing. Defense blogs went silent. Public discussion on Weibo was heavily censored. But Western cyber analysts noticed a surge in online activity from Chinese defense research IP addresses, searching for Ukrainian neural adaptive flight and autonomous drone countermeasures. The Chinese government quietly ordered the launch of a new program codenamed Skyguard 25, aimed at countering foreign adaptive UAV threats. But insiders admit it will take years to catch up. The biggest embarrassment came when Ukrainian officials revealed that the Sokil X9 used captured Russian radar software, which was originally licensed from China in 2018. That meant Ukraine had essentially beaten China using its own technology. As one Chinese general was quoted in a leaked briefing, "If Ukraine can defeat our radar with our own code, then our pride is our biggest weakness." Moscow's rage. Russia, meanwhile, was furious. The Kremlin had long relied on Chinese assistance for counter-drone systems. Moscow believed that China's AI-guided radar updates would give it the edge. Instead, Ukraine's success exposed those systems as ineffective. Russian Telegram channels erupted with anger. Influential bloggers accused China of selling dreams, not defense. Some claimed China had deliberately sold Russia outdated systems to protect its own trade secrets. But military experts knew the truth. Ukraine had simply advanced beyond both of them. The global impact. This single test reshaped how nations view modern warfare. For NATO, it was proof that Ukraine was no longer just a battlefield. It was now a research frontier. For China, it shattered the myth of technological dominance. And for Russia, It deepened the nightmare of facing an enemy that learns faster than it can react. Analysts at Rand Corporation and the Pentagon described the Sokil X-9 as a leap toward fully autonomous micro-warfare, the ability to deploy small, self-thinking drones that cost a fraction of traditional weapons gives Ukraine, and potentially its allies, a massive advantage. If hundreds of Sokil X-9 units can be produced, Ukraine could overwhelm Russian air defenses without ever putting a pilot in danger. Beijing's attempt to save face. To divert attention, Chinese state media soon announced Project Thunder Swarm, claiming China was testing new AI-controlled drone clouds capable of autonomous strikes. But leaked footage showed clumsy prototypes struggling to maintain formation. In truth, Beijing was scrambling. It launched emergency funding for AI radar research and even reached out to North Korea for data on electromagnetic interference. The irony is that Ukraine's innovation, born from necessity, forced China's massive defense industry to play catch-up. China's military is powerful, but it is slow, built on hierarchy and paperwork. Ukraine, on the other hand, moves like a startup. That difference, experts say, is what makes Ukraine so dangerous to its adversaries. Zelensky's message to the world. Later that evening, Zelenskyy held a brief press conference. Standing beside a digital image of the Sokil X-9, he didn't mention China or Russia by name. Instead, he said, "Those who underestimate Ukraine will always be surprised. We are not just defending our land. We are redefining the future of defense." Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar added, "We may be smaller, but we are faster, smarter, and unafraid." The quote went viral across social media platforms, including Chinese ones, before being swiftly deleted by censors. Within hours, hashtags like Ukraine Drone Shock and Invisible Sky trended worldwide. Ukraine had won not only on the battlefield, but also in the digital narrative war. A new era of innovation. As dawn broke over Kyiv, the Sokil X-9 prototype returned to base, untouched, undetected, and victorious. Engineers cheered as data streamed into their computers, confirming every target hit and every radar avoided. It was more than a technological milestone. It was proof that Ukraine had evolved beyond being a victim of war. It was now a nation of inventors, thinkers, and strategists who could outsmart even the most powerful military-industrial complexes. Beijing's disbelief was justified. For years, China had seen Ukraine as a resource, a place to buy engines, parts, and expertise. But now, the student had surpassed the master. This test showed that the future of warfare doesn't belong to the biggest armies. It belongs to the smartest minds. Ukraine had fooled China once in 2023 with fake drone data leaks. In 2025, it did it again. But this time, the consequences were global. As the world watches, one truth becomes undeniable. If Ukraine can fool China twice, defeat Russian radar, and outsmart two superpowers at once, then the balance of power in modern warfare has officially shifted. The Sokil X-9 wasn't just a drone, it was a symbol of a nation that refuses to be underestimated, a nation that turns survival into strength. And as Zelenskyy said that morning, we will keep building, because every sky, visible or invisible, belongs to the free.